So let's look at the vRealize Orchestrator and what it is that we can actually do with it. So if we imagine that this is the Orchestrator, so here's VRO. Now what VRO is an inventory of workflows, and the workflows we ship with about 300 predefined workflows, and of course we can define our own workflows to do specific things. And you can think of a workflow just like a script. A PowerShell script, for example, might create a VM or delete a VM or add a snapshot. A workflow can be thought of in a similar way. But workflows are so much more than that because they allow us to do code reuse. Now, the wonderful thing about vRealize Orchestrator is we can think of it as an abstraction layer. Rather than having to learn the APIs of lots of different systems, Orchestrator provides a platform for developers to plug into. And we provide a number of predefined plugins, and third-party vendors can supply their own plugins to make it really easy to consume their services. Let's take a look at one of the easiest ones to understand first of all. There is a plugin to VRO called the AD plugin. And what this would allow us to do is connect to external systems that are based on Active Directory. So here's ad.local sitting here. And imagine I wanted to do something like create a user account or add a user to a group. So I would develop a workflow, and the workflow would run in Orchestrator, leverage that plugin to communicate, to perform all the low-level communication of LDAP communication with that domain controller, and ultimately send across the API request or the LDAP request to create a user object. When we think of another plugin, well, there is a plugin for SQL. And the SQL plugin would allow me to connect to external database systems. So, for example, there might be Oracle system, or there might be a SQL Server system, something like that. And I want to just perform some sort of DB query against that, or update. Maybe once I've performed an action, such as creating an AD user, and I want to perform an update into that database to say that I've done so. There's another plugin that ships with product, and that is the SSH plugin. And the SSH plugin, well, that can connect to basically anything. It could connect to a Unix system, it could connect to a Linux system, it might even connect to a piece of hardware like, for example, a router, to add a new routing table entry. So that can go out to really any device quite happily and perform any updates. But of course the really exciting one that we're most concerned with is the vCenter plugin, because the vCenter plugin would allow me to connect to a vCenter server. And then once I've connected to vCenter server, I can perform actions such as creating VMs, deleting VMs, modifying DRS cluster properties, or whatever action it is that I want to perform against that system to be automated. So what we think about these plugins is these provide me an interface as a south interface. They're southbound services. But at the north side, are we going to always assume that VRO workflows are going to be invoked manually? I think the short answer is no. That's going to be the case during development, but it's not going to be the case generally after that. So what other systems are going to call upon VRO? Well, VRO is exposing a RESTful API, and it's that other systems are leveraging. Now, it might be a direct custom program, so it could just be any code that you're developing from any other platform. But it's more likely to be something like vRealize Automation, formerly vCloud Automation Center. So VRA can directly integrate. We could also leverage vCloud Director. vCloud Director might be coming in and doing something. Or it might be something like a third-party service management toolset, something like ServiceNow. It's part of a service management system, and that would be communicating into VRO like that. So at the north side, other systems that will invoke the workflows that are stored within VRO, and at the south side, I'm going to leverage the plugins to perform different activities. When you get started with VRO, most of the time we'll be working over here in this area with the vSphere plugin or the vCenter plugin to perform actions in vCenter. But of course, you don't have to be. You could be doing all sorts of different activities, and there are plenty of additional third-party plugins, more of which we'll talk about later on in this course.